Do West. All right. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Game is Game podcast. I'm here as always with my little bro Eric. We're gonna go ahead and break down the Western Conference. Sorry for the long hiatus, but we're gonna be more consistent putting out these videos. So he has it in the back of him. Rap not jazz. The Western Conference Finals have already started. Suns took a 1-0 lead. It seems like there's going to be no Kawhi, no Chris Paul again tonight. We're about an hour from tip-off. But before we talk about that series, we have to talk about what happened to Utah.
Yeah. Let's catch up because I said Utah was fraudulent all season.
You did say that.
I said that they were fraudulent all season, and it came into fruition, like I said.
So when you talk about Utah, I mean, it all starts with, this is a team that has been complaining about lack of respect. I remember when they played Philadelphia, and Philadelphia was an overtime game. Donovan Mitchell got kicked out. And he was just like, nobody respects the Jazz, and I know that they don't want us to win, but the way that we've been officiated these past couple of days, it's like the league is against us. And then, LeBron and KD, they waited till almost the end to pick Utah Jazz players on their team. And then LeBron was like, nobody plays with the Jazz on 2K. It's like nobody really fucks with the Jazz like that. And then fast forward, they get the number 1 overall seed. This matchup with the Clippers, I actually picked the Jazz, and I thought that it was a bad matchup for the Clippers because I thought that they would actually have a tough time scoring because of Gobert. I thought just the way that they played, there's not really that much downhill attacking on that team. And I thought that Gobert would actually have a big defensive presence. Usually the teams that take advantage of him are the pick and roll team. But the Clippers, after game 2, they went 5 out. They knocked down so many threes. Gobert was incredibly inefficient, couldn't score on the smaller players, and then he just struggled getting out on the three-point shooters. This is a bad loss for the Jazz because, I mean, I guess with their fan base, there's not that much to do as far as sports in Utah. So that is their team. That's their only professional team in Utah, I believe. I think they might have an MLS team. So they're going to rally around them regardless. But as far as for national media, Gobert 3 years out of 4 defensive player of the year, all that's over. Like there's no one, he's never getting voted for that again.
Yeah, and I mean, I would even be surprised. I would take it a step further if he makes, I would say all-star, but I'll be surprised if he makes another defensive team. But when we talk about the Jazz, the main reason why I said that I believe that they were fraudulent was, number one, I don't think on a championship team Gobert can be your second best player. I just don't think that he offers enough. You can't have a player that plays only one way, and that only one way being defense, being your second best player. Number two, if you look at their team, they don't have a lot of wing defenders outside of Royce O'Neal, and I wouldn't necessarily call Royce O'Neal an elite wing defender. And
he's not.
He also struggled on the defensive end in that series as well. Outside of Donovan Mitchell, yes, they do have a lot of offensive power with their ability to score with different players and Bogdan and Jordan Clarkson and Ingles and all of that. But when you just look at the makeup of their roster, they don't have a lot of wing depth. They don't have a lot of players that can create their own shot. Mike Conley was hurt in the series. Obviously, he was coming back from injury, but they just to me, like I said, all season, I didn't really believe in them. I didn't buy in them. I said it from the start of the season. I just don't think that Gobert can be your second best player on a championship team.
Yeah, the Jazz fans would counter what you're saying and say, hey, Mike Conley was the second best player and he was hurt, but Kawhi Leonard was hurt. When Kawhi Leonard got announced that he was hurt, I was like, okay, this series is a wrap. There's no way that the Clippers win now. This is a wrap. And that's where you have to give Paul George his credit. He played like playoff P. He played like that dominant player he was when he was in OKC. I was talking to this series about this, someone about this series, and a thought came to my mind. And the thought was, of course, the Clippers won. They had the best player. And if people really think about that, Paul George was still the best player on the floor, but because he's laughed at
the bad rap the last couple of years.
The bad couple of years, yeah.
At it in hindsight, he's the best player on the floor.
He's the best player,
and he showed that.
That he was the best player on the floor.
Obviously, Donovan Mitchell is an elite player, an elite talent, and he's an ascending talent in this league. I think that here within the next couple of years, it's not out of the ordinary to think that he's going to be a top 10 player.
I don't know about that. With him,
I think that he has the ability to be a top 10 player.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, he does. He has the ability. You're right.
But for the Jazz, I think it's going to be the same for like other teams. If you're the Jazz, you have to. You're the number one seed. You had a great regular season. You had a 2-0 lead, and you had Kawhi Leonard out for the rest of the series. Not only that, the Lakers have been eliminated. The Nets have been eliminated. If this was the year that you were this was the year for you to win. This was the year for you to go and get that title. So it has to sting for them. Has to sting a lot for them. But I just think that they need to shake their roster up. You can't come back with the same team. They need to go and get wing defenders. They need to go in and kind of reshape their roster because you can't win like that.
I don't know. You said they get the wing defenders. That's the most coveted thing in the NBA. So it's like, where do you get it from? Everybody wants a 6'8" guy that can shoot threes and defend.
Well, my question is, do you start to look to move some of the big pieces on your roster to make that happen?
It's like who?
Rudy Gobert. I don't know why you're laughing. I'm just.
Here's the thing about Rudy Gobert.
Well, hold on, but this is my thing about Rudy. This is my thing about Rudy Gobert. When we're talking about playoff basketball, you cannot be a player when you're recognized. And I know that you brought up Mike Conley and that the Jaguar. A lot of people in their fan base would argue to say that Mike Conley's the second best player, but I would argue to say that nationally around the league, I would think that people and coaches and most people would say that Gobert's their second best player.
Yeah.
So I think when you talk about the team's second best player, number one, you can't only play one side of the ball. I think that, and I said this a lot to a lot of people that I talked to about the series. Gobert should have took it as disrespect that Terrence Mann was guarding him.
And but he didn't have any post moves.
Not that Terrence Mann is not a capable NBA player, but Gobert should have said, listen, I'm going to post him every play. I don't think that you necessarily need Dream or Shaq-like post moves.
Yeah, he just needs to seal.
A smaller guard.
Seal in the front of the rim.
Seal, get positioning, seal, and jump hook, do something around the rim and put pressure on their defense. I think you cannot only play one side of the ball. I just think that will always come back to hurt them. I think that will always come back to hurt them, that he cannot give them nothing on the offensive side of the ball. You have to be able to give something on the offensive side of the ball. And then when we talk about his defense, he showed in this series that he struggles on the perimeter. I mean, that's never been his game. He's an anchor. He's a rim protector, but I mean, you know this better than anyone else. This is just going to be a game tape that people are going to use going forward against him. So
yeah, I mean, they didn't defend well versus Memphis. You talk about him being a defensive anchor. I mean, he doesn't really guard post players well. I watched that game that was talking about Philadelphia versus Utah. Joel Embiid kicked his ass. Jokic kicked his ass, scored a career high on him in the regular season. He can't really guard any of the bigs either. He can't guard Anthony Davis. He's good at one thing. He's good at rim protection. But in the playoffs, when you're playing the best teams, they're going to stress that. Draymond said it best, 82-game players, 16-game players. He's obviously an 82-game player. When you're, the Magic, Orlando Magic rolling in on a Tuesday night on a back-to-back, having that 7-foot monster at the rim, it messes up everything. But in the post game where you can game plan for him, and the thing about it is, you're saying trade him. every team in the league just watched that tape and saw it. Every team in the league saw how bad this was, you know? And we'll talk about it when we talk about the Eastern Conference with Ben Simmons. Everybody's saying trade Ben Simmons. Every team just saw what happened. All the good teams just saw it. So it's just like,
I think that if you come back with Gobert has to go and get. You don't have. I'm not saying that he has to turn himself into Joel Embiid or Hakeem Olajuwon or Shaq. He just needs to develop some kind of offensive touch around the rim.
And you know what the funny thing about that is? You know, Hakeem used to do the workouts with the big man. And the first thing that he would do with them is say, listen, you guys need to learn how to do just basic jump hooks and seals, because everything comes off of your ability just to do the basic move. Then you can add the fakes. Because I know, because he was talking about if he played Draymond Green, the Warriors, he said I would score every time. I would seal him, and then I would just jump hook at the rim. He can't block that. But they all see the dream and they all want to work on the shake. You have to work on the basics first.
But you know the thing about it, I think I see Gobert out on the floor. He gives his all. He looks like he's a hard worker. So hopefully he takes this series and he takes it to heart and he goes and he works on his offensive game, because you can't be the team's second best player and provide nothing off the offensive end. You just can't. You can't win like that. I think that Donovan Mitchell, even with the ankle injury, was special in that series. He gave it his all. He really did all he could. But I would just think that you can't win like that. So unless he goes and he gets an offensive repertoire where he can, post smaller players and give them something on the offensive end, they would have to look into trading him and reshaping their roster. I just think that's what they're going to have to do. You can't win with that kind of team.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see what they end up doing, because this goes back to a conversation I had with someone a long time ago. There's only one team that can win. And with Rudy Gobert, you're guaranteed some regular season success. So is that good enough? Hey, they have a new owner. D Wade's part of the partnership there. So they're probably going to be wanting to win that title. And like you mentioned again, if there's a year to win a title, this is the year to do it.
And I know you said that regular season wins and them being the number one seed, and maybe that's good enough. But the thing about it is, it goes back to that conversation that we've had on this pod plenty of times. Okay, but what happens the year that you're bouncing the playoffs again, and Donovan Mitchell says, you know what, that's it. I've had it.
It's true.
You know what?
And I think that's the genius of giving D Wade ownership, because that's his idol, and D Wade can fight for him those rooms to get things better. I don't think this roster is that far away. I think that they're probably one swing piece away. I don't know how they get that swing piece, and we'll break it down when you do their regular season about their trade assets in the cupboard. But it's hard to find the guy said, we add this guy, he's the one that puts us over the top. It's hard to find that in the league right now. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. But the West Conference Finals, Game 1 went to the Suns. We said no Kawhi again today, no Chris Paul today. Who do you like in the series? I like the Suns, but I'll let you rip first. Who do you like in the series?
I like the Suns. And for all my friends that have been watching the pod, they will tell you I like the Suns. The Suns are the most complete team in the NBA, in my opinion. They are. They're the most complete team. They have every piece that I think that you need on a championship caliber team. So I like the Suns, especially with Kawhi Leonard's injury. I think that the Magic is going to strike midnight on the Clippers. Yes, they had a great series, and they did a fantastic job against Utah, but I think that this Sun series is a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Suns obviously have better wing defenders when you talk about Bridges, when you talk about Crowder. This is a more physical team. Cam Johnson is shooting. Torrey Craig, obviously, yeah. So they have wings galore. You have to shout out Cameron Payne. He was someone who was best known for his dances with Russell Westbrook, and he's just expanded his game. Like, he is a great player. And on the same token, I do have to shout out the Clippers. I do have to shout out Reggie Jackson. I don't know if this is fever dream that he's having right now, but he's shooting the ball in a way that he's never shot it in his career. I think he was a big part of them beating the Jazz.
Oh, he was a big part.
He was a big part of it because
he was unconscious. He was
he was
unconscious.
he was an all-star level player. He played
He
at
was
all.
unconscious.
Yeah, if he played like that in Detroit, they would still be together. Stan Van Gundy would still be the coach.
Yeah, I read that Detroit has filed civil suits against him and Blake Griffin for the way that they played in the playoffs.
Yeah, if they play like that in Detroit, Stan Van Gundy would still be the coach. He should suit up civilly.
Detroit's trying to get their money back, man.
Yeah, so
like they after y'all.
Yeah, so I mean, going forward, I think obviously. I think the Clippers, if we just talk about just
just if you talk about just the matchups, I think that Ayton's obviously an elite, closing in on becoming an elite player, and
I think he's elite already.
Yeah, he if he's not already elite already,
he's elite already.
He gives you both ends of the floor. Obviously we talked about them having multiple and capable wing defenders. All of their wing defenders provide shooting and spacing for Devin Booker.
It's a great team.
So, and then you have the floor general, Chris Paul, who's going to get other players easy shots, who's going to control the pace of the game. And then you talk about Devin Booker. And I mean, this is kind of a term that we always talk about with having a player where you can kind of roll the ball out. And essentially what that means,
the boy, like we call him.
Player there where you don't need to run a play for him. You can say, listen, we haven't scored in the last 3 minutes. Get us a bucket. Or, hey, we're up 5 with a minute and 50 seconds left to go. We're just going to continue to put the ball in his hands because they cannot guard him.
He's nice, man. I haven't seen anybody.
He's an elite.
I've not seen not a soul guard him.
Yeah, and I remember
I've not seen a soul.
I know. He gave Boston 70.
I have not seen a single solitary soul.
Boston tried everything in their power that game. He gave Boston 70, even though Boston won the game. He gave my Celtics 70. So
I have not seen a single soul guard.
Their makeup, I just like the makeup of their team.
Yeah.
I think that they have tenacity, grit. With you talk about players like Crowder, you talk about players like Chris Paul. They just have a certain mantra to them. And I like them to win the series. I think that Chris Paul will probably eventually come back faster than Kawhi Leonard will come back.
It's weird that they haven't said what that injury is.
Yeah, that's still kind of to be seen, but my expectation is that Chris Paul will come back. But like I said, I don't know if the Clippers have enough to beat the Suns in this series.
Yeah, it would just depend on the Clippers' chances. Obviously, Paul George, that he goes on just a hellacious run and he can carry them. I think Marcus Morris is hurt too. He's a game time decision today, so it's tough. They're running out of bodies. This is a team that's built on wing difference and one-on-one individual great play, and they're running out of bodies to do that. Zubac, he was someone that Lakers Nation has been very upset that they've traded away for pretty much nothing. Muscala, who was just a one-year rental. But he's kind of struggled these past couple series, playing big, playing against other bigs.
You know what I would say about Zubac? He's in and out of the lineup. So I start to wonder whether, his rhythm is being affected. He goes a game without playing. He goes a game where he plays 10 minutes and then he plays. So I don't know. I mean, what do you feel like his rhythm is a part of why he kind of?
I mean, he's not an offensive player though. He's not going to be someone that's going to get touches. So the type of player that he is, it might be true that that's what's affecting him. But the type of player that he is, he can't use that as an excuse. It's not like he's an impact offensive player. He has to be a player that plays defense, rebounds, finishes at the rim. That's something that should travel with you on the road, whether you play or you don't. Like, you're not a player that we're throwing it down in the post to give us buckets. Because I thought Boogie actually gave them better minutes in the stretch that he played the last game than Zubac did. So, and this is a series that they need him because DeAndre Ayton, he's there and that boy ain't going nowhere. So they need someone to kind of match what he's doing. And Zubac, this is the second series in a row, he hasn't really lived up to that challenge. So, shout out to Magic because Magic was like, they keep crying, telling me about Zubac. What the hell has he done? So other things that we haven't talked about quickly in the West, Terry Stotts, Rick Carlisle, Stan Van Gundy. All three of these coaches were either fired or mutually exclusive, mutually agreed to part ways. That Luka story, if you haven't read in the Athletic, is kind of crazy, about Haralabos Voulgaris and him not getting along with Rick Carlisle and calling out Rick Carlisle a lot. I saw that. I'm a Harrison Barnes fan, and the one season that they overlapped in Dallas, I saw a lot of that, of him calling Rick Carlisle out. I remember vividly. They were playing. I can't. Who were they playing? I think it was the Bucks, and Rick Carlisle didn't call a timeout, and the Bucks the Dallas ended up missing the shot. He didn't end up shooting the shot, and he went to the sideline. He was just pointing at Rick Carlisle, and he was just screaming at him. And I was just like, man, this is out of control. So of those three moves, what did you think? Is there anyone
I'm just a little bit surprised with the Carlisle, because to me he's an elite coach, and elite coaches are not easy to come by. So I think that he's going to be a coveted coach around the league for all of the teams that have vacancies. But I was a little bit surprised. I think also with Stan Van Gundy, that was a little bit kind of weird to me as well, because I never liked their roster construction to begin the season.
Me
I think
either.
that we both said that.
Yeah.
With Steven Adams, Eric Bledsoe, a lot of the pieces that they had, and how did Ingram fit into it? Because how does Ingram see himself as a player compared to what they want from Zion, and how they want the team to be ran? So I think that with all of those moving parts that they had, I think that was bound to happen. What happened this season? So I don't think that Stan Van Gundy really got a fair shake there. I kind of blame their roster construction on that, but I was a little bit, those two moves kind of, caught me by storm a little bit. Terry Stotts, obviously, he was on the hot seat the last couple of years. They've been bounced in the first round. Again, bounced in the first round this year to a team without their second best player in Jamal Murray, missing Will Barton. Monte Morris came back later in the series, so he was already on the hot seat, and for them to lose that series, you had to expect that was going to happen. I do think that Terry Stotts is a good coach, and I think that he will ultimately land on his feet somewhere. I mean, there's other head coaching vacancies. I've seen him tied to Indiana. I think that will be a good fit for him, but those are my opinions on those three coaches getting let go.
Yeah, there's a lot of noise about Rick Carlisle going to the Bucks. If the Bucks don't end up winning the title this year, I think that would be a great move. He's a coach that he's had problems with players in the past because he likes to call plays a lot. So he's bumped heads with Jason Kidd, Rondo, with Luka, even because he's someone, these players, they feel that they know what's best going on, and he actually wants to call sets all the time. And a lot of people have complained with the Bucks is like, what the fuck are they doing on offense? So a coach that's calling sets for a team that doesn't know what they're doing on offense, it kind of gels together. But the Bucks, I mean, like we said, this is anybody. I wouldn't be surprised if any of the four teams who are left wins the title. Just the way this year is going, the injuries, Giannis twist the ankle. It's just this is the weirdest year playoffs by far. I just saw a stat saying this Eastern Conference Finals is the first ever to have only one All-Star. The Western Conference Finals, it's just a weird year. So, good luck to the teams that are still left in it. But we'll go ahead and end this on the Western Conference. Like I said, we're going to be more consistent, pumping out videos every day again. So definitely look out for that. Subscribe. Eric, you want to say anything before we get out of here?
No, just like, subscribe, leave a comment. Anything that we could do better, we appreciate it, and we'll get at you guys next time.
All right.